a reading by Kimi, whose favorite word at the moment is ocean.
Welcome her. Cheers. 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 Cheers.
So thank you, Lisa. This is so cool. I've been writing something big and long, so it was really a joy to write something short in a short amount of time. And thank you, Casa Libre. You rock. So I have a visual show and tell for this that I can pass around as long as I get it back. And maybe I'll just pass it with the tissue. It'll become clear what it is when I get to that part. This is a little essay. One, the rear table. This past summer, I had one of those 6-week periods of idle hell. Not utter hell. I wasn't being scapegoated by the CIA for that essay I wrote years ago professing my love for Che Guevara and the Cuban Revolution. I wasn't writhing in pain from a flamed sciatic nerve or filing for bankruptcy or fighting with an ex-husband or tending to an ailing parent. No. Idle hell. You know, when, as an artist, you got nothing. I was awaiting comments from an editor on the last 45 pages of the 6th draft of my novel, and since I'd rewritten the ending, I felt like I couldn't go futzing around with the first 350 pages, which I'd already heavily revised, because, well, if the ending worked, then I was done. But if it didn't yet work, then I'd still have to re-revise the beginning anyway. You get what I'm saying? So there I was in idleness, which is usually a good thing for creative people, right? We long for it. We live for it. We need periods of nothing so that all the ideas can gush up and fill the space and spill out. Except that nothing was gushing and filling. I couldn't write a thing. Sorry, this is... I couldn't write a thing. I had no desire to dance, or to make a dance. And when I closed my eyes, I saw no shapes, nothing that an X-Acto knife might like to extract from a piece of paper. It would have been a good time to be making money, but alas, I earned much of my living as a teaching artist in school and after-school settings, so summers tend to be dry. I don't usually panic about this. I'm used to it, and historically I have welcomed the time for my real work, except that, as I said, that's not what was happening. I wasn't making money, and I wasn't making art. I was making myself miserable. I don't really know what I did for those 6 weeks. How it was that the day turned to dusk, and then it was morning again. I wasn't smoking pot or watching television, though now I wish I had been. I wasn't making nice, healthy lunches. I wasn't going to the movies. I wasn't even reading. No poetry, no newspapers, no magazines, no fiction classics, no smutty shades of gray, even. My creative self was on the back burner, all the way back, the rear table. It was so far back, in fact, I think possibly it just fell off the table, period. What can you do? Wait. Walk. Touch things with fur. I walked a lot of dogs last summer. Dogs without owners. Nobody's dogs. Dogs that were so happy for a choke chain around their necks and 15 minutes of freedom. A stroll outside, around a lake where there were ducks, trees, toy boats, bushes. Dogs that jerked and yanked and pulled in their attempt to get there, anywhere, sooner. Dogs that devoured the little palmfuls of treats I held out to them. Dogs I had to put back in a kennel and walk away from. Dogs with eyes I could have drowned in, and maybe did a little. All that longing, I recognized it. 2. Re. In Argentina and Mexico, and now over much of the Spanish-speaking world, the prefix re, pronounced re, is sometimes added to adjectives to deepen their meaning. It's a slang way of accentuating them. Re, as in very, to the max, over the top, totally, super duper. Chula, for instance, which means pretty, becomes re chula, very pretty. Difícil, which means difficult, becomes re difícil, fucking hard. It's kind of like an abbreviation of really, really chula, really difícil, really cool. I don't know if it's done in Spanish, but I like the idea of putting the prefix not only before adjectives, but also before nouns. If you had a very nice dining room table, for instance, I could say, wow, re table. Here are a few other possibilities. You'll recognize the English word, but then listen for the bilingual translation. The Spanish re plus the English noun. Rehearse, or re-hearse, an elongated, oversized, shiny black Hummer that's been retooled into a funeral car. Rearrangement. I love how you place those white and yellow flowers in that vase. Rearrangement. Recant. Honey, he said one morning, can you iron these shirts for me, please? No, I can't. Reappropriate. Those 4-inch candy red platform heels are amazing and reappropriate for our slut strut down Congress Street later. Reconstructed, as in a small guest house in an architect's backyard. Oh, I love what you've done with the cantilevers. Reconstructed. Remember. Oh my God. Then he unzipped his jeans and I couldn't believe what I saw. Remember. The length. The girth. 3. Retablo. I have an altar in the corner of my bedroom. It's not fancy, just a cardboard box covered with a bright yellow cloth, upon which I have placed a handful of carefully selected objects and some candles. If you had told me 20 years ago that I'd have this altar today, I'd have scoffed, smirked, or rolled my eyes at you. Back then I was secular. A Mexican retablo is a little painting on a piece of tin, usually depicting a saint, or the Virgin Mother, or Christ, along with an illustration of a personal predicament the spiritual figure helped resolve. For instance, a soldier might thank a saint for bringing him home alive from war. A mother might thank a saint for curing her child of an illness. Wikipedia explains that retablos, quote, come from the need humans have to interact on a personal level with divine spirits. Sometime in the last 20 years, I developed a need to interact with the divine. I know exactly when it was. In 2006, I lost something small and relatively invisible, but nonetheless significant. It's cliche, I suppose, loss as the reason we begin to look inside and then beyond the self. Loss as the thing that nudges us closer to whatever God might be. Loss as the fuel for our unrelenting questions. How? Why? When? What for? But if pain falls us to our knees, we might as well pray once we are there. Prayer is palliative care. Cheaper than aspirin, less destructive than alcohol. Who can ever predict what grief will look like? Someone gifted me a retablo from Mexico a few years ago. A retablo to San Martin de Porres, who is depicted in the upper left-hand corner of the tin square, standing in a patch of flowers. In the center of the picture sits a gray, semi-cross-eyed dog, and at her feet, smaller dogs that look a little bit like rats. Below the picture is a written prayer from Laura Rosas Duarte, dated the 13th of March, 1953. Translated, it reads, San Martincito de Porres, I thank you for interceding to help my dog have safe and healthy puppies. San Martin de Porres, you might or might not know, had the gift of being able to communicate with animals. A mulatto, he is also the patron saint of mixed races, and is said to bestow racial harmony upon those who request it. He could also, it is said, cure disease, levitate, and bilocate. Bilocate. That means he can be in two places at once. Cool. It's hard to say if my retablo for the puppies is an original or a reproduction, as retablos are now popular folk art trinkets that any tourist can buy and take home. Which at first seems kind of cheap and cheesy, but then seems a whole lot better than buying a real one and deconsecrating it. Oh sure, give your excuse. It was from 1953. The gray cross-eyed dog is long dead, as are her puppies. But still, what if someone's prayer goes unanswered because their retablo is in some hipster's house in Chicago, or Boise, or even Tucson, miles away from where God might see it? Well, I guess in San Martin's case, he'd see it anyway because, being bilocational and all. I hung my decidedly reproduced from the original retablo to San Martin low to the floor, a foot or so above the place where my former dog, Jasmine, used to lie. Jasmine never had puppies. She was spayed by the time I got her. In fact, I'm not sure she ever even had sex. But it's possible the prayer to San Martincito did her some good anyway. She lived to be 15 and died just last year in the place where she'd slept so often, underneath that retablo. She died on her own in my arms an hour before the vet came to assist her. I have a new dog now. He is cute, and also a rescue from the pound, where from outside his cage I drowned in the two pools of cool water that are his eyes. Sometimes in the morning he lies on the bed and watches me at the altar in the corner of my room. He probably wonders what I'm doing there, lighting that candle, placing my hands on my knees, sitting still and quiet for so long. Or maybe he doesn't wonder at all. Some of the things on my altar: a sprig of cotton from a farm near the town of Pima, a few hours north of Tucson. I found it during a hard time. It remains a reminder of softness. A small red Buddha about 2 inches tall. I bought it online. It came in a 6-pack with 5 other mini Buddhas. You'd be surprised how much spiritual crap you can buy online. A miniature figure of Ganesha, the Hindu elephant god said to remove obstacles, also purchased online. A plastic fork and a spoon for small hands. A jar of water charged by a full moon. For a time I had some seashells there. For another time some smooth stones and a tiny red plastic man carrying an axe. I selected my gods and goddesses: Lakshmi, Oshun, Jemaja, Saint Gerard, Saint Francis. What I do at this altar sometimes surprises me. Cry, chant, ask, long for, smile, settle, say thank you, renew, remember, receive, renounce, recommit, replenish, return. No one tells me how to do any of this. I just make it up as I go along. Edward Bear, the dog, is often asleep by the time the ritual is over. But as soon as I blow out the candle and stand, he is up and off the bed, ready for his own morning worship. He bounds and slides across the floor, eager, ready, electrified for the event that he, like doggies everywhere, lives for. Leash to collar, door to open, feet to pavement. We walk, awake and respired. There are saints always in our midst. We know them for their joy, their gratitude, how easily their cup fills and spills, and for the way we forever yearn and learn to be like them.